of today, the content around creating content. And today you're going to be creating content. And obviously one of the things that drives social media is content. But this is where a lot of you need to understand. For those of you who want to use social media to blow your sales up, as we have done, over the last few years, as many of our clients have done, thousands of our clients have done. Now, you've got to understand some concepts around social media. Now, one of the first concepts you need to understand is this little concept called the mere exposure effect. Now, the mere exposure effect really lends itself to understanding why social media isn't a traditional form of media, and why in some cases people get frustrated because they go, well, I tried social media and it didn't work. And so, well, what did you try? Well, I posted a couple of quote cards, I posted a couple of videos, and nothing happened. I didn't get any leads. And so, well, of course not. It's a social media. It's not a traditional media. And what we've got to understand is social media, more importantly, the tool that is social media is a long-form tool. Now, what I mean by long-form, I don't necessarily mean long-form in terms of the format, although you can, depending on the type of content, but I mean long-form in terms of it can often take time for people to build up a level of familiarity before they convert. But when they do, it's a completely different type of conversion. Okay, how many times have you been in a sales situation before where you get a lead, okay, what's come from a traditional marketing, you follow up that lead, and then you literally have to spend an enormous amount, disproportionate amount of time selling or convincing them that you know what you do, you can deliver what you do, that you understand their problems, and you have to work really hard for the sale. Now, the beautiful thing about doing social media well, in my experience, is when you do social media well, you get a lot less resistance on the sales side because you've already had exposure. Okay, you've already demonstrated that you have a level of expertise. You've already demonstrated, through your content that you can solve problems. You've already demonstrated that you're an authority by having an understanding. And when people consume this information prior to getting on a sales call, they're primed in a very different way. Versus seeing an ad, responding to an ad, and jumping on the phone, versus consuming multiple pieces of content, becoming familiar with you, getting to know you, personality, relating to the different parts of you, getting value, solving some problems. Now when they jump on the phone from you from a conversion, it's a very different type of conversation, okay? It's less pessimistic and a lot more positive, and I find personally, it's a lot easier to move people through the sales channels and the sales pipeline. And that's where we've got to understand this concept called the mere exposure effect. Okay, it drives all social media, but it also drives an enormous amount of your behavior, not just on platform, but also off platform. Now, Christine, if you could just hold that, you don't need to move anything. Now, the mere exposure effect is a psychological phenomena whereby people tend to develop a preference for things once they become familiar with them. Now, in social psychology, the term is also referred to as the familiarity principle. And the familiarity principle plays out a little like this. You've probably been in your everyday life, okay, and you've seen an ad, or you've seen a product, or you've seen a service. But it's not until you see that product, that service, that ad a few times before all of a sudden something shifts inside you. And who knows themselves? Like, put a 1 in the chat box. No, don't put a 1. Put a 5 in the chat box. Okay, if you know yourself, you have to see something. You have to be introduced to a concept a few times before you get turned onto it. Put a number 5 in there if you would agree with that. You have to see a concept a few times. And if you're like everybody else, okay, you're exactly the same. And this is what we call the familiarity principle, okay? And what we know is based on 2005, the average consumer needed to be exposed to a business, product, service, or a brand, or advertising, on average 5.4 times before there was a level of familiarity that was triggered and they felt comfortable, not to buy, but to reach out and engage in a conversation or engage in the sales process or get put into the sales channel or the sales funnel. 5.4 times in 2005. In 2012, it was 12.8 exposures were required to trigger that same level of familiarity. And you probably know this from your own experience, that you need to see things a few times in order to understand it. Now, along rolls around 2019, 2020, now the average amount of times that people need to be exposed to something, on average, is around 20 times. Now, you've got to ask yourself the question, how do I expose my business, my product, my service, my brand, or my advertising to someone 20 times without actually pissing them off? Because who here, okay, who here at some point, just say yes or no, has been in a situation where you've seen the same ad pop up so many times that you don't actually get familiar and intrigued, you actually get annoyed and a little bit pissed off? Has anyone ever had that happen before? Yes, just tell me if there has, if you can agree with that. And so what we've got to understand is we've got to understand old versus new. Okay, traditional marketing versus social marketing. And if we look at old school traditional, we'll have a little look at old school traditional here. Okay, traditional. Now, what are the mediums or the modalities that people have used in old school traditional marketing? Well, we've got things like the newspaper. Okay, we've got newspaper. What else? Well, we've got radio. Okay, what else? We've got magazines. What else? We've got TV. What else? We've got billboards. Okay. And this is a long, not quite an exhaustive list of newspapers, radio, what the fuck does that say? Magazines, there we go, I can read my own language. Mags, TV, and billboards. There are others, okay, but these are the main ones. You've got print, okay, and you've got radio, and you've got television. This is the traditional, old school way of marketing. But what was the formula that was used in old school traditional marketing? Well, the formula that was used in old school traditional style of marketing is what we refer to as direct response marketing, okay? Also referred to as direct marketing, okay? Or in some cases it's even been referred to as direct selling, okay? More so direct response, direct marketing, but it's where you're essentially directly trying to sell, okay, to the audience of these modes, right? You're directly trying to sell to newspaper, to radio listeners, to magazine readers, to TV watchers, and to people driving past the billboards. And so what drives the psychology and the methodology behind direct response is very much sales orientated. Okay, it's very much marketing orientated. The goal of a direct response is to get someone to directly respond to the media. And ideally, we want them to respond, a phone call, email, website visit. But our goal fundamentally from all of this traditional, what is our goal? Our goal is to do what? Is to generate a lead. Okay, that is the number one goal. Now, what's a lead? A lead is a name, first and last, phone number, okay, and you can also add on to that email, okay, and also postal address. Now, that is what constitutes a lead. What is the goal then of getting a lead? The goal of getting a lead is we put it out of the newspaper, on the radio, the magazine, the TV. We want someone to respond, okay? Ideally, the way that we get them to respond is we capture their name, phone number, email. And this is where most people fuck up advertising. They might do direct response, but they don't capture the leads. And so as a result, it's fleeting. A lead comes into the business, you have the conversation, you don't grab this data, they go, they don't buy, because most people won't buy on first contact. And so what have you done? You've now got no leads. You've had a lot of phone calls. You might have had 50 phone calls, but you've now generated no leads. And so if you don't have any leads, what can you not do? You can't remarket to them. The reason that we focus on lead generation is because we want to be able to remarket to the people who don't buy off the direct response. Now, this is old school strategy. Okay, now I'm teaching you old school strategy because it's going to apply to the new school context. Okay, but we've got to understand, once we've got the name, phone number, and email, okay, we can now start sending them emails. Okay, we can now also make phone calls. We can now also send them letters, direct mail, flyers, brochures, whatever we want. We've now got multiple mediums that we can use to get to those 20 exposures, right? Because that's what we're after, 20 exposures in traditional sense. Now, what is the goal of all of these things? Our goal is to get to the point where we call them, we email them, we send something to them, and then what do? They pick up the phone, they come into the store, and what do they want to have? They want to have a conversation. And ideally, that conversation will track towards a sale. But the goal is, in most cases, unless obviously you're e-commerce, and there are some exceptions here, to put an ad out, to get a response where we capture information, where we use that information to remarket. Ideally, remember, we're going for 20 exposures, to the point where we remarket, where we ultimately at some point get a conversion to a conversation. And this is where the magic happens. But you've got to understand, in most cases, millions, tens of, hundreds of millions of dollars is spent with the goal of doing what? Getting to the point where we have a conversation, because that's the goal. Because without a conversation, again, e-commerce aside, you're not going to be making a sale, especially if you're dealing in the higher ticket area and there is a lot of conversation that's actually required. So this is the traditional old school. Now, You try using this in a social environment, and what do you think is going to happen? Well, this is what happens. Imagine you have a birthday party. Birthday party is a social event. It's not a networking event. At a networking event, what do you expect people to do and to say? Well, I would expect people at a networking event, okay, to come up and give me some low-level pitches and try and get my business card. Why? Because that's the context of the environment, okay? Whereas if I have a birthday party and I invite 50 people and 49 of them show up with gifts and dress nicely, but one shows up with a fucking sandwich board on it saying, buy my shit, buy now, and they're handing out flyers to everyone and they're walking around trying to sell everyone at the birthday party, what would that do to the social environment? It would fuck it up royally. Okay, and everyone will be like, man, who invited this guy? And I guarantee you, that guy, that girl will never get an invitation to come back. Why? Because they tried to market, they tried to sell in a social environment, and it's out of rapport. It's not the same context. It's not a networking event. It's a social event, and you don't sell at social events. Okay, and if you do it a lot more tactfully than walking in with a fucking sandwich board and handing out flyers and business cards and trying to pitch people, okay, while they're trying to enjoy their canapes and their drinks and their birthday cake. You guys with me and you understand on this, right? And so direct response, for the most part, I would say it's dead in the social environment. Not completely, but if you're trying to lead with direct response, if you're trying to advertise, okay, in direct response, what's going to happen? You're probably going to find that you get low quality leads. You're probably going to find that you find it difficult to get your ads to work. Why? Because you're advertising to people in a social environment. You're using direct response in a social environment. So what's the new school mechanism? Oopsie daisy, I've lost my lid already. The new school mechanism, oh, there it is what we obviously refer to as the social media. Okay, this is traditional media. Should probably put in the word media there just so we're all on the same page. Now, we're in a social media. Now, there's a big difference between social media. How do we engage people in social environments? Well, first of all, in social environments, we engage typically in what I'd refer to in meaningful conversations. Okay? And what type of meaningful conversations do people like to do in a social environment? Well, they like to talk about their dreams, their goals, their problems, their aspirations, what's going on. Socially, though, what is it something that people often will talk about in social situations? They'll talk about their problems. And they'll talk about how to solve their problems. And they'll share people what's going on. And this is what we've got to understand. In the social media environment, people are chasing meaningful conversations. That's what drives them. And if you can create meaningful conversations around your content, you're going to get far less resistance getting people to 20 exposures. Over here, getting 20 exposures using this style of communication in a social environment is going to be very difficult. You're going to build up what I would call user resentment, okay, or advertising resentment, advertising bias, where people get so sick of seeing your ads, even if they want what you have, they don't like you anymore. Why? Because you keep fucking trying to advertise to me and I'm not interested in what you've got to sell. Solve my problems first. Okay, whereas if we can engage people in meaningful conversations, well, how do we engage people in meaningful conversations? Well, we distribute a different type of content. We don't distribute a direct response type of content. We distribute what I would refer to as a utility content. Utility. Okay. Now, what does the word utility mean? By virtue of utility, it means it is helpful. Okay, and things that are helpful, in most cases, are meaningful. And that's why if you look at my social channels right now, if you go to Facebook, Instagram, or any of my social channels, how much content do you see when it comes to this? And even when I do this, it's very, 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 very subtle. But in most cases, I don't do this up front. I do this after I've got a certain number of exposures. Once I get to a certain number of exposures, then I deploy this. Why? Because I don't want to polarize people in a social environment by trying to sell at a birthday party. I want to build rapport by having meaningful conversations first that ultimately, as a natural consequence, make it really easy for people to respond when I make an offer. Why? Because I've already got a relationship with them versus trying to sell them before they even know me. And over here, utility content. You look at my videos, 99.999999999% recurring of all of my content, has no call to action, okay, has no link to a website, okay, has no marketing, no sales message in there whatsoever. It is purely utility, pure helpful content. It is literally video after video, thousands of videos of me solving people's problems. Thousands of videos, I'll say this again, of me solving people's problems. And as a natural consequence, without me even having to engage in direct response marketing, guess what I wake up to every morning in all my DMs across all my social channels? People from all over the world saying, hey Kerwin, I watched a video, changed my life. Hey Kerwin, I watched a video, I'm a better parent. Hey Kerwin, I watched a video and I've been on your website and I'm trying to find something to sell and I can't find anything for you to sell. Do you have something to buy? Have you got anything I can buy? A book, a tape, a program, something? And most of the time, up until recently, we had nothing to buy. We only released Fast Growth Summit, 2-3 times a year. Nail It and Scale It was only released, 2-3 times a year. K2 Elite was only released 2 or 3 times a year. So 80% of the time, I had nothing to sell. And then I'd say, well, I'm sorry, at this point, I've got nothing to sell. And guess what? Most of those people, or at least some of those people, would become mad. They'd become angry because I didn't have anything to sell. I had been so helpful. I got to my 20 exposures, created massive familiarity, and they actually wanted to buy with me. They've searched my website, can't find anything to buy, reached out to me in a conversation, and then I told them, oh, sorry, I don't have anything to buy just yet. And then they're like, are you kidding? What kind of a business are you? Surely you should have some products for sale. But then I would say, but I will be releasing something in about 4 weeks, 3 weeks, whenever the time frame is. If you'd like to give me your first name, phone number, and email address, I can notify you on the early birds as soon as it is released. And as a result, what do you think they say? 99% of the time they say, absolutely, here's my information. Okay, and I don't have to try, I don't have to work hard for it, and that's without using any direct response mechanism whatsoever. Okay, that's just by me purely pushing out utility content and purely pushing out the styles of content that actually solve people's problems. Helpful. Okay, it solves problems. Okay, I give people results in advance of doing business with me. Okay, and I offer support just through, the exchange and the sharing of ideas. And as a result, without doing any direct response. Now, I do direct response, but I do it intelligently. But even without direct response, I'm still getting plowed every single day with, in some cases, dozens, if not hundreds of messages across all platforms asking if I've got something to buy, asking if I've got something, I should say, to sell. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a pretty good situation to be in. And this is where you've got to understand. Social media, hear this, has a 100% higher lead to close rate ratio. Social media has a 100% higher lead to close rate ratio than traditional direct marketing. Why? Because it's a different context. Okay, and one of the things that we've learned is in traditional contexts, in most cases we do all this work up here to get to here, just to have a conversation. Whereas in the social world, guess what? Just by publishing helpful content without, in most cases, even having to ask for a lead, guess what we actually create? Conversations. We create conversations, in most cases, just through the publication of utility without even going to direct response. So we've reverse engineered the process of marketing by actually engaging in conversations that make this easy. Because if you can engage in a conversation with someone and it's a meaningful conversation around a piece of utility content that has helped them, and then you simply ask them for their first name, email address, and phone number, what do you think your conversion rate is going to be like? Through the fucking roof. Our conversion rates off conversations sit between 80 and 90% on platform. Okay? In direct message. In some cases, much, much, much higher. Instagram is even higher. So we actually, because the goal, and I want you to write this down, the goal once upon a time was to generate leads, to have a conversation. But now, conversation is the new lead. Write that down. Conversation is the new lead. Okay? And when you understand that, you stop trying to wait until you've got fucking people downloading your shit. And you start going, well, I've got people talking on my social. Let's get into a conversation. Because after all, that's what we want to fucking do eventually. And if you start that, okay, it's a lot easier to get to that. Okay, so now, when it comes to the content, we've got to ask ourselves, first of all, who are we providing content for? Who are we marketing to? And this is where you've got to really understand your target market. Okay, and there's a whole range of ways that people will describe their target market. Some people call it your avatar. I call it my Henry. Okay, I have a Henry and a Henrietta. Okay, but in overview, in basic overview, what we need to understand, I don't know why I just put that microphone back to pick up another one. Okay, who are we trying to talk to with our content? Who are we trying to talk to with our content? Now let me create some context around this, because I know I've got two people that I talk to. I talk to my audience, and I talk to potential clients. Now, what's really interesting is those avatars are not the same. Because when you look at my audience avatar, okay, in terms of age, okay, is on average 18 to 65. My client avatar, on the other hand, again, because I'm more experienced, I'm more mature, I have, I'm not sitting there trying to play in startup land and take everyone from $1 to $100. We work with a lot of startups, but the majority of our clients range from startup to very well-established business. And so it takes, in most cases, a little bit of time, and that's why in most cases startups in our business, or in our client community, okay, they're not the anomaly, they're there, but in most cases they're in the 18 to 25 bracket. Okay, they're still, in most cases, a potential client, but not what we go after as a thoroughbred client that we're looking for. We get them, okay, and we work with them, and in most cases we train them to be thoroughbreds, but when we look at the age range of the clients that we work with, okay, and by the way, potential clients, this is where the money is. Audience, this is where the reach is. And so for me, I communicate to both. My audience age range is 18 to 25. My potential client age range, okay, is 25 to 50. Okay, these are the people that will in most cases spend good money with me over a long term. Now, people below 25 will sometimes spend good money with me, but in most cases it's not the bulk. It's maybe 15% of my business. The bulk of my business sits between the age brackets of 25 and 50. Okay, my audience online is male, female. Okay, it's about 62% female. Okay, and the balance is male. So what's that? That's 38%. Okay, that's in my audience. Now, in my client base, it roughly sits 50-50. Okay? In my audience, I have people that are, in most cases, single, okay, and in relationships. But in my clients, about 87% of them are in a relationship of some kind. That shows in most cases, not necessarily, but in some cases a little bit more stability. Up here, my audience, okay, my audience up here, I'd probably say, let's call it 55% to 60%, okay, have kids. My client group, it's about 85 to 90% have a child in the home. And so here's the thing. I speak to my clients when I speak to my audience, but I know who my clients are. Now, I don't want to create any confusion here, but what I do want to create is the question of, do you know who you're communicating to? First of all, this is what we refer to as the demographics of who you're talking to. But then we've got to ask ourselves a question. Okay, well, once we know the basic demographics, and demographics also, you've got locations. Okay, where are they located? Okay, if I look at my audience, let's call it, is it's probably about 50% Oz. Okay, we've probably got about 25%, if not 30%, North America. Okay, and then we've got 15%, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas in my client list down here, currently, we sit at about 80% of our clients, okay, are from inside Australia. Now that we're doing digital, we're obviously doing a lot more. That number is actually increasingly shrinking. But what this does is this helps you understand about who you talk to and who you market to. And if I try and talk to everybody and I try and market to everybody, I'm going to end up with quite a mixed bag. I know where the clients are that I want, that have the money, that have the stability, okay, that have the level of establishment. Again, because I'm not, there are plenty of people, who are out there who are happy to train, fly-by-nighters, people who are just kind of having a bit of a feel around, whereas I want to play with the serious people. I want to play with the people who've, either they're just starting out or they've had a few goes or they're fully fucking committed. But who I talk to and who I market to aren't exactly the same audience. And so for me, we need to know who. Who is your, and again, avatar is the most common term that we use. Who are they? Okay, who is your Henry? Who is your Henrietta? Who is it that you're going to market to? Now, again, I talk to everyone when I talk, but I know who I'm talking to when I market. And I know when I talk to my audience, I'm going to be talking to my potential clients. But what I do know is when I talk to my potential clients, in most cases, I may not be talking to my entire audience. Again, look at my audience, and this is a big number that might shock you. My audience on social media, I'm going to put this in green just so it really stands out. Okay, 35% are in business. Surprise, surprise, the majority of my social audiences aren't entrepreneurs. They're mums, they're dads, they're people who follow me. Why? For the performance content, for the parenting content, for the health content, the mindset content. Down here, obviously, 100% of my clients, okay, are actually in business. So when you start to see these discrepancies, go, okay, who I talk to and who I market to aren't necessarily the same thing. But when I talk to people, I'm still communicating with my potential clients. But what this gives me, when I talk to my audience, this gives me reach. Why? Because I have people, let's call it 70% of my people, they're not in business. And so they share my content. But I guarantee you there are people in their networks that are in business. And so by virtue of me talking to a broader audience, I get greater reach in the business community. Because if I just went, I'm only going to talk to these people here, I would miss out on 70% of my reach and my audience. Okay, which by virtue of them sharing what I do, give me access to other networks. I don't care if there's only 35 people out of every 100 that are actually in business in my audience. Because of those 65 people who share that content, who aren't in business, as I've already said, there will be people in their networks that are in business. And by virtue of them engaging with that content, and this is something you need to understand, clicks from shared content, 5 times more likely to result in a sale. Clicks from shared content, 5 times more likely to result in a sale. Why? I want you to write this down. A share is the new age version of a referral. A share is the new age version. It's a social referral. Okay, and what's the most powerful form of marketing on the planet? Word of mouth. Why? Because it's coming from a trusted source. Okay, whereas when we come from a trusted source, word of mouth is so powerful because we trust the person. Same is true with a share. When we share, it's coming from, again, in most cases, if it's coming from our network, it's coming from a trusted source. So for me, I know who my audience is. I know who my clients are, potential clients. In my audience, I speak to everyone. In my marketing, I speak to these guys. Now, a little bit of a hindsight, a little bit of something you don't know. We do actually have a program that we're going to be releasing very shortly for the greater audience. Okay, you guys got exposed to some of it yesterday. It's called Power to Create. Power to Create is a program that I developed about 10 years ago. It's the most powerful performance program developed anywhere in the world. It's the most original piece of training that you'll find anywhere in the world that combines psychology, quantum mechanics, particle physics, biology, neurobiology, neurochemistry, the whole kit and caboodle. It is the nuts and bolts of performance from the ground up to creation. Okay, we stopped running it for a few years. We're going to be bringing it back, possibly later this year, early next year. It's called Power to Create. And that is going to service the wider audience. But we've been able to build a multi-8-figure business by communicating to the wider audience, but only marketing to our potential clients. You guys understand what I'm talking about here? So this is who. And then we've also got who, what. This is who we're going after, but what are we going to say in our content? Well, what we're going to say in our content is ideally something really smart. And it doesn't have to be smart. It can be educational, it can be entertaining, it can be informative. Okay, because that's the goal of a social interaction, is to educate, inspire, entertain, make people laugh, invoke emotions. And that's what we've got to understand. What is it we're going to say? Okay, we know who we're talking to. Well, when I know who I'm talking to, it makes it a lot easier for me to know what to say. But whenever I communicate, okay, on social, I always stick to my strengths. stay in your fucking wheelhouse, okay? Stay in the bandwidth of where you've got strength and expertise. Now, a lot of people say, well, where's your expertise? Well, obviously, my number one level of expertise is in the area of business. My specialty is fast growth. You know, if you want to go from 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 1 to 50, if you want to go from 100,000 to a couple of million, if you want to go from 10 million to 100 million, I'm the guy. I am the guy that people come to when they want to get fast growth information and content. Okay, and that subsequently leads into, obviously, my trainings as well. We've got Nail It and Scale It, and we've got K2 Elite. I don't have a plethora of products. I've got two. We've got NISI, the 3-day immersion implementation, one of the most powerful programs in the world, and then we've got K2 Elite, which is one of the most phenomenal networks and communities of like-minded, conscious entrepreneurs and business owners, where about 1 in 3 to 1 in 4 will 2x to 10x in their first 18 months with us. Why? Because we work with them in their business, working with these people, and we get fucking mad results. We get incredible results at NISI. That's over 3 days, but when we work for someone, we work with someone over 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, we fucking blow their businesses apart. We've got case study after case study after case study. So I talk a lot about business. But as you notice, only 35% of my social audience are actually interested in business. And so I didn't go, well, hang on, what else can I talk about? I'm like, what else do I fucking love? And I'm someone who's obsessive when it comes to the things that I like. What else do I really love to talk about? Well, I love to talk about parenting. And it just so happens, it's very fortunate that I've got a son. Okay, and I get the opportunity to talk all about my parenting experiences, which talks to, by the way, you know, let's call it up here, 60% of my audience. Okay, and by the way, some of my most popular content, at about 500 million views, we've got about 500 million, 600 million views just on Facebook. 80% of that was organic. And out of that 600 million, I'd say probably close to 100, 150 million is just on parenting content. So we've identified that parenting is a very big, I guess you could say, pillar for us. But it's worked very well. Now, please understand, I'm not sitting there talking about parenting as an armchair expert. I've interviewed some of the top parental and early developmental and childhood psychologists in the world. Okay, I've spent the last, almost 7 years now trying to raise a boy. Now, does that mean I am the fucking bee's knees when it comes to parenting? Not at all. Am I an expert? I'm being claimed as I'm being called an expert, but I don't consider myself an expert. I just consider myself someone who's a business owner, who's really interested in parenting, and I share a lot about what I'm learning. I share about what works. I share about what doesn't work. Same in business. I share about what works. I share about what doesn't work. And as a result, my audience and my potential clients, they resonate with that. Because if I just talk about pure business, yeah, I'll be talking to their commercial interests, but I guarantee you they've got other things in their life. They've got kids. They've got relationships, which leads to the next part. I also talk on relationships. Now, how's this, right? We've got, 100 million views maybe on our content across relationships, and I'm fucking divorced. Now, by the way, if anything, that gives me more credibility, in my opinion, to talk about relationships. Why? Because I've had them work and I've had them not work. We've done well and we've not done well. But I am obsessive when it comes to relationship dynamics. I am obsessive when it comes to parenting dynamics. And as a result of my obsession with relationship dynamics, I've learned a lot about how to relate to people. I've learned a lot how to relate, because relationships that I talk about, I'm not just talking about intimate relationships. I talk about personal relationships. Okay, I talk about team relationships. Something else that we talk a lot about, is leadership. Why? Because I've been in business, growing businesses, working in businesses for 20 plus years. Now, please understand, with all these pillars here, these are things that I don't just have an interest in, I'm just going to talk about this because it's in my demographic. These are the things that I'm genuinely fucking interested in. These are the things that I have a genuine obsession in. I'm also interested in concepts around health. I'm also interested in concepts around, let's call it meditation, okay, and spirituality. And so as a result, what this does is this gives me an enormous scope to communicate to my audience, okay, many of which, by the way, in here relate to this, because if you've been in business, you know what it's like. Okay, if you've been in business and you're a parent, you know what it's like. If you've been in business and you're in a relationship, you know what it's like. If you've been in business and you're trying to lead to scale, if you've been in business and you're trying to maintain health and work-life balance and learn how to become more calm and, have a greater balance in life, these are the things that people are interested in. So although my commercialization is up here, I just talk about the things that I'm interested in. Why? Because that's what we do in social environments. Okay, we go to social environments. Hey, what's going on? Oh, man, nothing. What about you? Not much. What about you? Oh, how's Noah going? Noah's great. Oh, my God, I just had this massive lesson. I just learned that if I do this, he does that. And I've been doing this now for about 3 years. And finally, it's starting to stick. Oh, I can't believe. Really? What was your biggest takeaway? Oh, this is my biggest takeaway. I talk about this shit in life. I'm not just talking about it because it's a fucking sales strategy or a marketing strategy or a social strategy. It's a social media. So I talk about the things that I'm interested in, as you would in a social environment. Okay, I don't claim to be an expert in any one of these areas. Okay, although I'm being told in a lot of these areas that I'm now, positioning myself as an expert. I don't see it that way. I'm just talking about the things that I'm interested in. It just so happens I'm obsessed about business. I'm obsessed about parenting, relationships, leadership, health, and meditation, and maybe a few other things as well. Anything I'm leaving out, John? What are the pillars? I don't think they're the main ones anyway. And so you've got to ask yourself the question: who is your audience? What do you want to say to them? What do you want to talk about? And yes, you want to talk about your thing, but when you understand your audience, are there other things that you're interested in that if you talked about it that would relate to your audience? I don't know, life? Okay, are there other things that you can talk about with your audience that would really connect with your potential clients? I don't know, life? Do you know what I'm talking about? We all have to live, and this is a beautiful thing about the social environment. Some of my most popular content is me bearing all of my mistakes. Now, when you look at the social experiment, for those of you who've been around the old school, our social experiment was the first documentary that we created, where we basically filmed me, and I still filmed, basically all the time. And then we created a documentary around our transition from social media marketing to traditional media marketing. Okay, I think it was like 30-something episodes or 99 episodes, and it was a big hit. And I got to be exposed in all these areas for the good parts and also the bad parts. But here's what happened. When I exposed myself for the mistakes that I made in parenting, in relationships, and leadership, and health, and in meditation, guess what? People love that. Why? Because they can relate to it. There's nothing worse than just posting your highlights reel on social media. I don't just post my highlights reel on social media. If you look at my documentarian content, I post all of it because we've got the social experiment. Then we did K-Day, and we're about to launch Bracing for Impact. And we'll send that out to you guys so you can have a little bit of a look at that. You can see more of what's coming. And so for me, we've got to understand, who am I talking to? What am I going to say? Okay, what am I going to talk about? Yes, you need to be a subject matter expert on something. It's got to be your value proposition. But what else are you interested in that you could talk about that you can relate? Because I can relate parenting to business. Why? Because it's like fucking raising a child is like working with a team member, okay? So even if you're not in business, I can make it relatable. Why? Because when I'm trying to get my son to do something, okay, it's like trying to get my team member to do something. If my team member makes a mistake and I smack him, okay, he's not going to be very happy. But sometimes we feel like that, and people can relate. Same with relationships, leadership, health, and everything else. So my goal is to focus on my subject matter expertise, but to create relevant threads of conversation. I don't just talk about parenting for the fucking sake of parenting, okay? Although now we do more, okay? In most cases, where it started is me talking about parenting in the context of business, parenting in the context of leadership, understanding that parenting is the greatest form of leadership training, and if you can become a conscious parent, then you can become a conscious leader, and if you can take your lessons from parenting and apply it to your team, if you can take your lessons from your team and apply it to your child, to your kids, then you're going to fucking transform both worlds. Who am I talking to? What am I going to say? What does it look like? Now, this is where we get into, now at Nail It and Scale It, we go through this in a lot more detail. Okay, this is obviously a short, sharp sprint to the finish, but we go through in Nail It and Scale It what we call the pillar strategy. And in Nail It and Scale It, we go through the whole process of what the pillar strategy is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the pillar strategy very simply. First of all, what is a pillar? Oh, I've got a clicker here somewhere, I know. Where's my fucking clicker? Oh, John, I've lost my clicker. There it is. You guys couldn't see me running around the studio like an idiot. All right, the pillar strategy. A pillar is a piece of content that serves as a source for more content. Now, in Nail It and Scale It, one of the things that we do is we get everyone to write a beautiful, big, fully produced, fully designed custom ebook, specifically around what you want to say in one particular area. But then what we do is we take that ebook and we break it down into articles. We wrote the ebook once. We now don't need to write 5 articles. We can now take the content from the ebook and we can now create 5 articles. Okay, but we've only written 1 ebook, but we've got now an ebook and 5 articles. And we do that at Nail It and Scale It. But then we take those 5 articles and we use them as scripts and we create 5 videos. But we only created 1 ebook. That ebook became 5 articles and then a script for 5 videos. And then what we do is we actually take photos and screenshots and quotes, from those videos. And then we create pictures and quote cards. And so that 1 ebook now turns into about 30 or 40 pieces of content because we keep breaking it down. Oh, see Daisy? And that's what we call the pillar strategy. That's the basic version of the pillar strategy. And so what we need to understand, back to me here in the studio, is we have, actually, you know what? I call this the content tree. What does the content tree look like? Well, up the top of the content tree, you've got what I would refer to as meta content. Okay? And in the middle of the tree, you've got what I'd call the macro content. Okay? And then below the macro content, you have the micro content. Now, for example, we might film an episode for a documentary, whether it's K-Day or The Social Experiment or Bracing for Impact. That's meta content. And so meta content, in most cases, is probably going to be like 30 minutes, you know, maybe up to 60 minutes or more. Okay, it's long-form meta content. But what we'll do with that meta content is we'll then look through that meta content and we'll go, right, there's got to be some videos in here, some macro content. And that macro content is going to be essentially what I'd call a 3 to 5 minute spin. Little concept from within the filming and the documentarian process, right? And then down here, we've got the micro content. And the micro content, you know, can be basically a 30-second to 2 minutes, or it can be a quote, okay, or it can be a picture. But the quote came from the meta, okay? The 30-second to 2 minute video came from the meta, okay? The macro content, the 3 to 5 minute macro content came from the meta, and this is what the pillar looks like. So as an example, this is your tree. We had Peter Crone. Who saw my video with Peter Crone where he did the healing on my eyes? Did anyone see that by chance? Anyone see that? Say yes or no if you did. That phenomenal podcast that I did with a guy called Peter Crone where he did a live healing. I had a periorbital dermatitis I've been dealing with, trying to battle, get rid of it, and he did a healing live on camera. Now, on that video of Peter Crone, I don't know, maybe John, you can tell me how many views has it got on YouTube currently? Just the long form. I'll find out for you specifically, but it's a great example, okay, whereby we create this meta piece of content, which in this context, okay, was a podcast, okay? It can be a podcast, can be a live event, okay, can be a documentary, but it's long form. John, you got a number for me? Okay, so on the podcast, we had 83,000 views. Now, on the micro or the macro content, okay, in the 3 to 5 minute mark, okay, which is just a small video, last I checked, Matthias said we had about 24 million views. Now, here's the thing. Imagine if I had never taken that snapshot out of the podcast. Imagine if I had just gone, oh, I've got a podcast, it's fucking amazing, but you have to watch the whole thing. 83,000 people thought it was great, okay? But there's another 24 million people here that missed out. And so what I did is I took that podcast and I cut it up and I cut the very best bits out of it. It ended up being like a 3.5, maybe 4.5 minute video. And then I published that, okay? This went on YouTube, this went across, you know, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I think maybe some of our videos go on YouTube as well, some of our micro. Most of our meta content is going on YouTube, and most of our macro and micro, okay, is going on the other social channels. And as a result of that micro piece of content, 24 million extra views. Okay, that's just on Facebook. Now, you've also got to understand it's 24 million views that we can now retarget for marketing, because when people watch a video, I can now put other videos in front of them. Okay, and here's what's really interesting when you look at the marketing side. Guess what I do with a lot of my macro and micro content? I actually put ad spend behind macro and micro content. And this macro and micro content down here has no calls to action. It has no direct sell, no link to a website. Kerwin, why would you advertise a video that's got no sales focus? But it does, because what I do is I get 24 million people to watch that video, and now I can retarget those 24 million people with more videos. I don't know how many times, maybe 20. Okay, and then once I've retargeted those 24 million people 20 times or 5 times or 7 times of the content, then I can drop a direct marketing piece an ebook, a webinar, a cheat sheet, a video series, something, and then I can generate leads from those 24 million people through the retargeting process, which you guys are going to learn about as well. This is a fucking game changer. Okay, I film one podcast. I can turn one podcast into around 30 pieces of content. Okay, sometimes more. Another great one, Dr. Vanessa Lapointe. We did a podcast with her. I think her podcast, I don't know, John, maybe you can tell me what the Vanessa Lapointe podcast is sitting at. Okay, but then we did a whole range of micro content. And we had one video in the micro content with Vanessa that got 36 million views. Just from one video. We had other videos that got, another one that got 4 million, another one that got 2 million, another one that got 3 million. But we had one podcast. How many views it got, John? 12,000. That second podcast had 12,000 views just on the podcast on YouTube, and maybe, 10,000 downloads on iTunes. But that one video from that podcast that got 12,000 views has already hit 36 million views on Facebook. Now, to give you context, again, I can now retarget all of these people, okay, which is an incredibly powerful concept when you fucking think about it. Okay, you've just got to think a little differently. Where do my fucking pens go? All right. Now, meta, macro, micro. And today, guess what you're going to do? Well, today you're going to create content, okay? And you're going to learn how to create content, but we're going to do it in a really snackable, easy way. Now, I'm going to give you what I would call the light version of the content creation formula. At Nail It and Scale It, we do a whole section on pillar content, a whole section on unpacking of all the different pillars we have, all the different breakdowns we have. But for you guys today, you guys are obviously getting a sneak peek. We are actually going to create a piece of content today, okay, that you're going to use. And it's going to be more like a piece of macro content. Okay, we're not going to create a meta piece of content. We're going to create a macro piece of content that you can also break down into some micro content as well. Who's fucking feeling pretty good about this? Who's feeling pretty good? Come on, who's feeling pretty good? Are you feeling pretty good? All right, fantastic. So what are we going to do? We are going to create a piece of content. But what we're going to do is we're going to create the piece of, we're going to reverse engineer the process. Because if you look at what we're trying to do here, okay, our goal here, all right, is we have video, micro, okay, times ideally at least 3 videos or more, okay? Let's call it 3 to 5 videos. Here's the goal. We then use those videos to publish, and then once we've had people connect and engage with those videos, all right, we use retargeting here, okay? We've got the 3 to 5 videos. We're going to publish 3 to 5 videos. We're not doing those today. We're going to reverse engineer the process. Those 3 to 5 videos are going to be marketed in Facebook. No calls to action, no selling, just utility content that's going to help, serve, and support. But then once they've seen a few videos, but then we need to actually drop something in front of them. And this is what we call the lead magnet, right? And the lead magnet is what we're going to create now. And once we've got the lead magnet, then we're going to reverse engineer the process, okay? And not today, okay? Another day at some point, we're going to create some videos. But today, we need to create the lead magnet. And what we're going to do is we're going to create the lead magnet as the macro content. And then we're going to use the lead magnet and break it down to create the micro video content. Again, reverse engineering the process. We'll create one lead magnet that we're going to turn into a couple of videos, okay, that is going to turn into your content creation formula and your actual pillar strategy. So, who is ready to create some content? Who's ready? Are you ready? Who's ready? Well, first of all, I want to introduce you to a piece of content that is really simple and easy to create and simple and easy to use. Because when we look at the content, okay, we've got a few choices that we can go with here. We can go with ebooks, we can go with videos, but I want to introduce you to something that we have never actually used before, or we've never taught before. Okay, we're using it right now, and it's working incredibly well. Okay, but this is literally has been created a strategy just for you guys. And as a result of me creating it for you, we've been deploying it, and it's been fucking gangbusters. All right, because everybody knows the whole importance, or everyone knows the importance of creating an ebook, and we do that at Nail It and Scale It. We have this big marathon session where we create this beautiful piece of content, this beautiful ebook. Okay, it's full form, fully fledged, absolutely fucking sensational. But today, we're not going to create an ebook. We're going to create what's called a cheat sheet. Now, a cheat sheet, in most cases, is more valuable than an ebook if you put it together well. And what am I trying to do here? Well, with the cheat sheet, rather than having a 10, 20-page ebook, we're effectively going to create a 2 to 3 page ebook. But it's only going to be one page. Okay, it's going to have a cover, it's going to have the content, and then it's going to have your third page. Okay? And so the cheat sheet itself, all right, is at the most going to be 2 or 3 pages. Page 1 is your cover. Now imagine if we could show you how to create not only a cheat sheet, but how to get it professionally designed, professionally produced, so that when you drop it in the group later today, people look at it and go, holy fucking shit, that's good. That's a good piece of content. Who would like to learn how to do that? Give me a fucking hell yeah if you want to learn how to do that. Then your next page is going to be the guide, and we'll call it the cheats, the guide. We're going to call it the utility. Okay, and then the last page is going to be your offer. And by offer, I mean for next steps. Next steps. Okay, think a little bit down here, direct response. But what we're going to do today is we're going to create this. We're actually going to create the cheat sheet. And here's the beautiful thing. Once you've created a cheat sheet, it's like, holy fucking shit, I can create these things in like an hour and a half, 2 hours. How many of these can I create? Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Who would like to know how to blow this out of the fucking park? Well, today we're going to create one cheat sheet. But imagine if you didn't create one cheat sheet. Imagine if you created, I don't know, a cheat sheet for business, and then you created a cheat sheet for parenting, and then a cheat sheet for relationships, cheat sheet for leadership, cheat sheet for health, cheat sheet for meditation. All of these would be what I would say in market, directed towards avatar, and create another point of connection for potential and also audience clients, but mostly potential clients. Shit's about to get real. So let me show you what you're about to do. Let's get a few of those up. Ready? John, have you got, okay. So this is the first one that we put together. And this one is in landscape. So, and by the way, we're going to make this so fucking easy for you. I won't give it away just yet. This one's in landscape. So the 6 steps to disciplining your 6 steps to disciplining your child healthily. I think we could have done a better fucking title than that. All right, now if you look at the next page, it is literally a one-pager on step 1, remain calm. Step 2, don't raise your voice. Step 3, be patient, not rough. Step 4, look at what happened. Why did you do that? Step 5, what were the consequences of doing that? Step 6, what do you think you could have done differently and how will you do it next time? And this literally is a powerful little snapshot of not only a piece of content that we deliver, but it came actually, here's where it's really interesting, from a podcast where I was interviewing one of the top child psychologists in the country. So it's actually not even my content, but I'm using this content, okay? And now when you look at page 3, here's my call to action. Watch this on YouTube. If you're a parent, I'm sure you'd agree, you've been given one of the greatest gifts in life, but I know firsthand how hard it is raising a child. It isn't easy. Check out the episode of Unstoppable. I sit down with parenting expert, academic, highly sought after keynote speaker, Dr. Justin Colson. So my direct response in this case, oops, sorry about that, John, isn't going to, because by the way, we've already got the cheat, they've got the cheat sheet, so we've already got first name, email, and phone number, or we should have first name, email, and phone number. Okay, but what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to sell them on engaging into more content. Sometimes we're selling them to engaging more content. Sometimes we're selling them into a phone call. It depends on whether it is in the sequence. Here's the second one as an example. The 6 steps to optimize your Facebook page. That's page 1. Page 2, there you go. Oh, we're showing page 2 and 3 at the same time. You can see page 2 there with all the ticks, the checklist. And then page 3 is my offer. And this one is obviously for Nail It and Scale It. All right, now let's look at the next one. Let's get ready to go. All right, 6 hacks to perform at your peak. Again, front page, middle page, Busy versus productive. Focus on one thing at a time. Know your purpose. Upgrade your software. Upgrade your hardware. The 90-10 rule. Now, please understand, if you read through this, okay, that is a powerful little punch of content. Okay? Now, you might go, well, there's not as much value as maybe in a 10-page ebook. No, there's not. But if you can deliver a lot of value in one page, then you're an effective communicator. And that's what we're doing here. And on the back here, what do we have? Download the Peak Performance Blueprint, which is another offer that they can take from our offerings. All right, next one, John. All right. 6 characteristics of a great lead magnet. Oh, what do you know? Okay, inside page. All right. It's got to be something that solves a problem. This is what we're doing right now. We're solving a problem. It's got to have a high perceived actual value, immediate access, instant gratification, easy to consume, just like this, actionable with quick wins, and include next step to CTA. Okay, so this is your guide. Okay, this is going to be the guide that you use. We're going to drop all of these in the Facebook group right now. Okay, and you guys are all going to be tasked today with creating your own cheat sheet. Now, we're also going to create a homework thread because your goal today is to create the cheat sheet and then post it in the homework thread. There's going to be a thread that's going to be called #homework day 2. Okay? And what I want you to do is I don't want you to just go into the boardroom and just paste it into the Accelerator group. I want you to find the thread. You go into the search function, search #homework day 2. Maybe we can show them how to do that. Okay? And then you're going to post it in there. But what if I made it even easier for you? What if I actually gave you all the templates for design? What if I actually created some of the templates for you? Gave you a couple of templates that you could use? Would that be helpful? Well, we've already done that. Okay, so we're actually going to be also posting and publishing a video on how to use Canva to create your cheat sheet. Because you're not just going to write out the content, okay? You're going to write out the content and it's going to look professionally designed by this afternoon. It's going to be fucking done. Why? Because you're here. Okay? Why? Because I'm not asking, because you committed. Okay? I don't have to ask you to do something you've already committed to do. Your word is your bond. Okay? Your bond is your truth, and your truth is your power. And if you want fucking results, stop fucking around. Okay? You've come here because you want to get more. Okay? You come here because you want to get a result from social media, and you don't get a result from social media by sitting on the sidelines, not engaging and not doing anything. So today, the game fucking changes, and you're creating the fucking cheat sheet, whether you like it or not. Why? Because you said you would. I don't need to tell you what to do. All I need to do is hold you accountable to your commitment. Canva is the fucking bomb. Okay? So here's what we need to do. When it comes to your lead magnet, all right. Well, first of all, we've given you the lead magnet on how to create the lead magnet. Okay. We've given you the cheat sheet, but we've got to ask yourself the question. First of all, who am I talking to? Okay. And what am I going to say? Now, if your subject matter expertise is, let's say, I don't know, weddings, don't start with a video necessarily or videos necessarily on relationships unless you can connect it to it very strongly. So your goal here, someone just wrote, I feel personally attacked in the best way possible. Stop fucking around, honestly. We're going to pick a topic, and then what we're going to do, once we pick the topic, we're going to go, okay, we picked the topic. It's going to be on business, parenting, leadership, whatever your subject matter expertise is, we're going to identify what is a problem. Okay, what is a problem? Okay. Because I'm sure if you're in what you do, you can probably identify, 20 problems. So let's make this even easier for you. First question. What are the top 5 problems that you can solve? Okay? What are the top 5 problems that you can solve? And then we're going to choose one. But the best part is, once we've done one, you've got 4 more you can go back to. What do you fucking know? Who would like the peak performance hack number 2 for creating wicked content? Right, instead of 5, write top 10. Okay? Because once you do the cheat sheet for 1, you've got a 9 that you can go fucking back to. Happy days. This has never been more easy than it is right now to create content. Why? Because we make it fucking easy. That's what we do. Okay? Imagine doing more of this. Imagine getting more into this. So first of all, what's the problem? We've identified the top 5 to 10. Let's choose the number 1. Great. All right. Now, what are, let's call it ideally, the 6 steps to solve that problem? Now, you don't necessarily have to solve the problem. You just need to demonstrate that you know how to. Because I get people all the time who will download an ebook on planning, download an ebook on leadership, download an ebook on sales, download an ebook on social media. But guess what they still want me to do? They still want me to show them how to do what's actually in the ebook. So your goal here is to provide as much value as possible in one page. And some of you are like, but I want to make it 2 pages. No! It's got to be 1 page, 3-page book, 1-page cheat sheet. If you want to blow that out more, we can on another day. If you want to learn how to do this in an ebook framework, so we have an app, because it went in NISI when we take you through the ebook framework, we take you through every single section of how to do everything. How to do the title, how to do the subtitle, how to do the chapters, what frames to use. Okay? So what are the 6 steps to solve the number 1 problem you've identified? And then map out those 6 steps. Step number 1, do this. Okay, so step number 1, create the step, but then give a paragraph on context. Do this, here's how. Step 2, do this, here's how. Step 3, do this, here's how. Step 4, do this, here's how. Top for me is getting people through the storm. Okay, so this is your goal. This is your commitment. We've given you the ebook or the lead magnet or the cheat sheet on how to do it. Okay, all of those have been posted in the Facebook group right now. It is so fucking simple. All you need to do is answer this question. What is the top 5 problems that you solve? Choose number 1. And what would be the 6 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps? Put in a number here that you would take someone through to solve the problem. And you can solve someone's problem, and if you can, great, but please understand, whether someone chooses to solve the problem with your checklist is up to them. Your job is to demonstrate that you know how. And your job is to give them information that if they use it, they go, fuck, this shit works. I provide content out there, and people go, oh my God, this shit works. Oh my God, this shit works. Oh my God, this shit works. And so as a result, when it comes to a sales conversation, they've already been made promises. They've had those promises fulfilled. And there's far less skepticism on the table. Why? Because I'm delivering results in advance. I'm helping people solve their business problems in advance. I'm helping people solve their parenting, relationship, leadership, health, meditation problems in advance. So then when they come to me, what do I have that I didn't have before? Trust, credibility, authority, expertise. Oh, I don't want to give everything away. If I give everything away, they won't need me. Bullshit. We're not giving everything away. We're demonstrating authority. We're demonstrating credibility. Okay, we're demonstrating how to actually solve the problems that they have, that if we give them, we show them, they go, well, shit, I could do this by myself, or I could just pay money to this person to get it done for me. Now, as a special added bonus, Tracy's created a special training, 17-minute, I think 17-minute training, okay, on how to use Canva specifically for this task. All you need to do, okay, and some people here are saying, oh, I don't feel like I have authority. Great. This is where you learn how to develop it. No one develops authority in isolation of research, study, okay, sometimes obsessive, and application of that knowledge. Guess what you can do? If you're starting out, if you're in a startup, if you're starting out and you're like, well, fuck, I can identify what the problems are, but I'm still working out how to solve them myself, use Google. Okay? Research the fuck out of this. Okay? I'm not saying you can't use Google. All right? What I am saying is, use every tool at your resource. All I'm going to tell you not to do is don't rip off other people's content. Okay, don't rip off other people's content. Don't rip off my content. Create original content. Okay, it's not fucking hard. Okay, use Google. Use a thesaurus. Okay, work it out. It's not that fucking difficult. What are the top 5 problems? What's number 1? What are the 6 steps, 3 steps, 5 steps I'm going to take someone through to solve that problem? Step 1, here it is, context. Not rocket science. Make sure you check out my fucking, the lead magnets that I've just shown you. So, to summarize one more time, Your task for today, come on, get enrolled. Let me know that you're in there. Are you in? If you're in, give me the fucking bomb. Tell me hell yes. Your task for today is you're going to create a lead magnet. Please understand, these days are consecutive for a reason. Day 1, task was on point. Day 2, task is on point. If you don't do today's task, you'll be behind for tomorrow's task. Why? Because tomorrow's task is going to feed into today's task. And then Thursday's task is going to feed into this task. And then Friday, it all comes together. And if you don't do the work, you don't get the fucking results. Okay? And the goal here is results. We want fucking results. This is not mental masturbation. We're not going to talk about things to feel good. Okay, we're going to do the things that actually produce a result. Most of you say, well, I don't know how to use social media. You know how to fucking post on Facebook. You're doing it right now. It's about the monetization side of social media. Okay, and the monetization side of social media comes from a utility approach. Remember, we are utility marketers now. We have an understanding of when to use and how to use direct response, but we are now utility marketers. We are solving people's problems, and we are using social mechanisms to do that. And as a natural consequence of solving people's problems, we're going to create conversations on feed, off feed, DM, okay, over email. And those conversations need to be utilized and explored to their full potential. If someone starts talking to you, this is the thing that might fucking surprise you. 82% of business pages on Facebook don't respond when people comment on their content. Imagine walking into someone's shop, okay, and going, ooh, lovely dress, and the person behind the counter just goes. And that's what 82% of people do when someone tries to talk to them on their Facebook or their Instagram shopfront. They fucking ignore them. They ignore them. This only goes to serve. 82% of people don't respond to comments, business pages. You only got to be a little bit better than shit. If you're a little bit better than shit, okay, you can do really well at social media. And this is your task. Your task today, identify the top 5 to 10 problems. You'll choose one. You'll still have 4 or 9 left over. You can create 5, 10 cheat sheets if you want. The 6 steps, the 3 steps, the 4 steps, the 10 steps. It's got to be on one page. It's a cheat sheet. Why are we doing a cheat sheet? Because it's easy to consume and it's fast to create. The cheat sheet can be done by this afternoon. Tomorrow, we're going to be working on video. Yes, don't fucking run away. Okay, and the day after that, we're then going to work on how do we get those videos out there? How do we get reach? How do we get engagement? How do we convert this shit to actual leads and sales? Super, super, super pumped. You guys are fucking amazing. I know you're in. You're going to get it done. It's going to get done. Whether you like it or not, you're committed. You're here. All right? Do the fucking work. You said you were going to do the work. You showed up to be committed, and now's the chance. So, a few more things to remind you. Today, your task is you're going to come up with a one-page, so it's called a 3-page cheat sheet. We are dropping in the examples of the ones that we have created, that we're using right now. We're also dropping in a video, a 17-minute video showing you how to use Canva. Once you've written out the content, how to use Canva. You can use your pictures, our pictures, their pictures. Okay, you only need a free Canva account. You don't need to sign up for anything other than a free Canva account. Okay, and then it's going to be done. And then once you've done it, you're going to drop that book, that cheat sheet in the thread, #homeworkday2. And you are all going to get on and you're going to look at other people's content and you're going to comment on it, okay? Our goal is to create all of this activity, ideally for the cheat sheet activity, on one thread, okay? If you post your cheat sheet separate to the thread, we'll probably ask you to post it back on the thread, depending on what time and where we're at this point. However, I've got one more thing to remind you. For those of you who are like, ah, and freaking out with your hair on fire, this is simple. This is easy. This is fun. Say it out loud. Say the fucking words with me out loud. This is simple. This is easy. This is fun. This is simple. This is easy. This is fun. This is simple. This is easy. This is fun. You get fucking stuck. This is your talk track. This is your code. You get fucking bogged down. You get bored. You get sidetracked. You go back to this. This is simple. This is easy. This is fun. You program the shit out of yourself to get this done. Okay? Because after all, that's what you committed to do. So you repeat after me. My word is my bond. I am an honorable person. I am worthy of trust. My word is my bond. I do what I say I will do. You want the fucking result, you got to do the fucking work. Okay? No one gets handed anything without the effort. You want to make more money? Yes, you got to build a relationship with it. Okay, but you can build a relationship with another person, but if you don't invest effort, okay, into helping, solving them, connecting over values, relationships and values, and again, I want to really fucking drive this point home. Where am I going to do this? I'll do it here. The key to success in business is really fucking simple. You've got to understand the connection between relationships, okay, and values. All relationships of value are derived from an alignment of values. When we align with people's values, we deliver value. Your goal with this cheat sheet is obviously to use it as a formative part of building relationships by delivering value to the values of these people based on the problems that you can solve. Because I guarantee you right now, the people that you're going to be talking to value information that can help them solve these problems. Okay, and your job is to provide that value that meets their values, and in a direct result, as a natural consequence, guess what happens? You're going to build a relationship. And that relationship will enable you to deliver more value to their values, which will fundamentally create an even stronger bond, an even stronger attachment, and an even stronger connection. Because after all, that's what you want. You want customers that are going to stay with you forever. Okay, you don't want customers that's going to buy from you once. Our goal is to create long-term relationships. And we create long-term relationships by understanding people's values and then by communicating to their values. And we communicate to their values by understanding their problems and helping them solve them. Fucking bomb. Absolute bomb. You guys, it's game on, motherfuckers. You said you're going to do it. Now, let's get it done. Write in the chat box here. If you're in for this, my